Be there, please, an update today.
People coming back today. Yeah. Be sure there's. Okay, it's 9 this morning. So it's 3:30. So I'd like to declare the meeting open. Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Wairarapa Policy Working Group for deliberations on the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw following our hearings last week. If you'd all like to be outstanding for our tīmatanga. Mai te paeonga, raro ki te tai. Mai I te awa tonga, raro ki te awa raki. Tēnei se apuri, api ai taratahi. Whānau whānau, haere mai te tauki. Haumie, huie, taipie. So just to advise that this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available on the three councils' website. So for the sake of the recording, we just introduce ourselves. Kia ora, I'm Robin Cherry Campbell, Carlton District Councillor and Chair of the Wairarapa Policy Working Group.
Kia ora, my name is Melissa. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Wairarapa.
Kia ora, Craig Bowyer, Councillor, Marsden District Council.
Kia ora, Steve Critney, Deputy Mayor, Carlton District Council.
Online.
Kia ora, I'm Tim Nelson from the Marsden District Council.
And moving on, we have an apology today from Councillor Martin Bosley. So I would move that we accept the apology from his non-attendance and seconded by Councillor Critney. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Just calling on the conflict of interest declarations. Do any of the members present have any conflicts to declare?
No.
Nope. Just saw a hand. That's not a conflict, is it, Tim? I can just see your hand on the screen.
No, I'm just moving
No.
my screen.
Okay, cool. So there are no conflicts. Item 3 on the agenda is confirmation of the minutes from our Wairarapa Policy Working Group hearing held on the 14th of August. On page 1, I also note that the SPCA and Forest and Bird provided their presentations and reference documents post that meeting to this working group, and these are attached to the minutes as attachments 1, 2 and 3. Do I have somebody that was present to please move the minutes of our meeting held on the 14th of August that they are confirmed as an accurate record? Councillor Bowyer.
I'd just like to comment on the minutes if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just in the regards to the items arising from the apologies, the Chair noted the disappointment in Councillor Nelson being able to attend many of the Wairarapa Policy Working Group workshops, meetings and hearings, and noted this has been challenging for the rest of the members of the working group. I have attended meetings regularly with Marsden staff at the Marsden offices to go over many of the things that you guys do in these meetings. And I'd hate to think that I wasn't carrying the load that I should be for this. And also my job does dictate that it's very, very hard for me to get away from school, often outside of Wednesdays. I do take leave without pay every single Wednesday to attend council things. But again, outside of Wednesdays, it can be quite challenging for me. I just like that noted.
Thank you, Tim. And we are aware that you have met with staff members. It's more the fact that we have discussions amongst ourselves as members around the table, and you not being present and part of that has proved a little challenging in the past. So thank you for your comment, and it will be noted. So we had a motion, Craig Bowyer and Steve Cretney for seconding that. All those in favour? Any against? Carried. Moving on to our reports for decision. So the item on this agenda is our deliberations report. So I would like to hand over to Angela to present. Welcome, Angela, and thank you.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. So officers are here today to present the deliberations report to the Wairarapa, the deliberations report on the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw, which is made up of 11 parts. The amendments originally proposed, each of the 11 parts were consulted on in May and June of this year, and it had the primary aims of supporting the minimisation and mitigation of risk, specifically relating to the health and safety, nuisance and offensive behaviour in our districts, as well as protecting key infrastructure. As is always the case, however, the window of discourse, or the Overton window, as you might know it, means that the viability of any of the proposals, excuse me, under deliberation also depends on how acceptable the proposals are to the public. I'd like to thank my colleagues in the Carterton and South Wairarapa District Councils for their contributions to the bylaw work programme, which were extensive, and to the Masterton District Council Senior Policy Advisor, Sophie Bradley, who led a wonderful community consultation exercise.
I'd like to second that as well. Tim, do you mind popping yourself on mute just whilst I'm conscious this is being recorded and the background noise may make it challenging for people listening to the recording? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the public consultation, 55 submissions were received, and 5 of those submitters spoke to their submissions at the Wairarapa Policy Working Group's hearing last week. So I'll take the deliberations report as read, but I'd just like to draw the working group's attention to a few matters. So officers have analysed the submissions and carried out further policy analysis during the drafting of the deliberations report. And some items of note are that 3 of the parts of the proposed bylaw received no submissions, and officers recommend no changes to these parts. So these are parts 1, introductory section, parts 4, prevention of nuisance or health and safety risk from fire and smoke, and part 10, wastewater. 5 of the parts of the proposed bylaw received submissions. Following analysis of these 5, officers recommend no changes also to these parts of the bylaw. Now, part 3, sale of goods in public places. Part 5, keeping of animals, poultry and bees. Part 7, cemeteries and crematoria. Part 9, water supply, and part 11, trade waste. I'm terribly sorry, I think I'm coming down with something. It's done the round of the office.
Give me water, I do.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Now, 3 of the parts of the proposed bylaw also received submissions, and these have resulted in officers recommending changes in these ways. So part 2, public places, including parks and reserves. The weight of public opinion is that the Masterton District Council should not lift the current prohibition on devices such as scooters and skateboards on footpaths in the district's shopping centres. We agree, and as a result, officers recommend retaining the current prohibition. I'm going to skip to part 8. Beauty therapy, tattooing and skin piercing. 2 submissions were received, including one from the New Zealand Institute of Environmental Health, and these identified a range of issues with the proposed bylaw and made several suggestions. Officers largely agree with the submitters and recommend making most of the changes suggested by the submitters. These changes are by way of regulatory stewardship rather than being of substance. So regulatory stewardship is to a bylaw a bit like a warrant of fitness is to your car. So everything is checked to make sure all the parts are working together as they should, and worn and outdated bits are replaced. And then finally, part 6, traffic. The review by officers of the submissions relating to this part of the proposed bylaw opened the door to material not previously considered in relation to 2 substantive matters. So the first relates to the authority to set speed limits. So this authority changed last year, and councils are no longer able to make speed limits through the mechanism of a bylaw. That means the proposed Schedule 2S to Part 6 of the bylaw, which was proposed as a way to lower speed limits along Castle Point and Riversdale beaches, must be removed. The second relates to the proposed prohibition of vehicles onto the part of Castle Point Beach that runs alongside Jetty Road and which is designated under the Land Transport Act 1998 as a road. And Schedule 210 to Part 6 of that bylaw refers. There are four key points to note with regard to this recommendation. We now have a clearer understanding of the problem definition, which primarily relates to the non-enforcement of the current speed limit and other aspects of driver behaviour. There is a question about whether the proposed vehicle prohibition is proportionate or disproportionate in response to that problem definition. And there are the unintended public access consequences to be taken into account. There is a question about the likely effectiveness of a vehicle ban that is not enforced, just as the current speed limit is not enforced. And finally, there are practical difficulties associated with preventing vehicular access. And I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions at this stage, or would
Probably just
go
through.
go through? Yeah, I was going to suggest that we go through part by part and then if that
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You're happy with it?
Yeah, I'm more than happy with it. I think that just it keeps it easier than yeah, definitely. If you're happy to stay
Yeah.
standing, you are, yeah?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So moving on, bearing in mind we'll have questions and we'll go through discussions on this. So we'll move to part one, the introductory chapter of the bylaw. Obviously, no submissions were received on this. Are there any questions on part one at all? Okay. Part two, public places, including parks and reserves. Now, this is one where there have been proposed changes. Are there any questions?
I have a question to do with the signage part, which just, I see that, is there actually a limit on the amount of signs that can be put outside a business? Talks about distance, but
That
not
was one.
signs.
That was some of the feedback last week was about the volume of signs.
From one business.
Through the bylaw, no.
Yeah.
No, with regards to volume. Through the in Greytown in particular, through the district plan, yes. And I would have to ask my colleague Karen if you know whether through the district plan there are any other restrictions outside of Greytown.
I'm not aware, but I'll look to Solitaire.
There is, and it's limited on total space area of signs per site. So if you had sandwich boards out all the signs and you had additional signage as well, that could be a trigger.
So it's about the kind of total
Total space area of all signs on site, but
flat space.
do a quick double check.
It's
Just to make sure I'm not informing you wrong, but I'm sure Craig and Roberts.
just so I can get the hierarchy correct in my own brain, given that the bylaw mentions signage and the district plan mentions signage. Can you just confirm the interaction of the two, like
So the bylaw,
district plan?
yeah, so the bylaw says that all the requirements under the combined district plan must be met first.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
district plan
Yes.
and then
And
it
then the
falls down to the bylaws.
That's right.
Thank you. Just making sure that that was.
So in reality, there is no law stopping, say, 8-10 signs going there, so long as they adhere to the total signage.
I'm just doing a quick double check on this one. Definitely the operative plan that we're working in right now. It's total face area of signs per site.
I'm pretty sure from memory it is the same in those.
Yeah, I think that rule was rolled over because it's been a
Yeah,
rule that's
proposed.
pretty
Mm.
effective. And then you have the fallback position of people still need to be able to use the footpath as pedestrians, and then that would be the potential breach of a bylaw if they're placing articles on the footpath and it's causing a nuisance.
Yeah, because the bylaw specifically says unobstructed footpath of 2 metres at all times. That's waterfall cascading down.
Oh, maybe.
So,
It's just said to mention it.
Any questions on part 2, Melissa? Tim, do you have a question on part 2? The officers? Okay. Discussions, comments on it now? Yeah.
Yeah, I think really good that we've taken notice of the CBD skateboard. I think,
Yeah.
good outcome.
just to circle back to one of the presenters from the hearings who talked about signage and sandwich boards in this particular section and made the comment that it's good on paper, but it doesn't translate well to real life, and that in towns like ours with traffic passing through, you know, sandwich boards and signage are so important to trade. And she also made the point that not all of our current footpaths allow for that clear 2 metre space. I just wonder if there's any place for discussion around are we very comfortable that 2 metres is the correct distance?
They suggested 1.5, didn't they?
He did.
I could add something there if that was
Yes,
helpful.
please. Yes, yeah.
So NZTA's pedestrian network guidance was updated on 1st of February this year. And in there, it has a table of minimum footpath dimensions and through routes.
Mm-hmm.
The minimum clear through route has to be 1.8 and the maximum is 3+. And local streets and residential areas at the minimum is 1.8.
So there's minimal wiggle room to what we've got.
And the fact that it was updated this year.
Yeah. Okay. No, good to have that.
It's an interesting conversation because with a lot of our existing infrastructure, the footpaths are nowhere near 2 metres in a lot of places. So how do we enforce a restriction on a shop owner who potentially can't put a sandwich board out as such?
I would imagine, and looking to staff as well for enforcement, that would be if there was a complaint.
Yeah.
And then they would follow. It's not like the staff are walking around checking solitaire, I think you.
Yeah. No.
No, something.
It does. Side. So they'd still be able to advertise, you know, with overhead signage.
Yeah.
If there was something underneath.
Or flag.
Or flat, yeah.
Or flag.
Things like that.
There are other options to provide that outward advertising. Then the district plan comes into
Yeah.
those ones that aren't.
Thank you.
I have one more thing to add if that's
Yes,
Yep.
please.
So I recall that the submitters were particularly concerned about Martinborough and the streets in Martinborough, and they talked about Kitchener Street in particular in one of the submissions. And so I went onto Google Maps and looked at what was happening on those streets, and I could see that it wasn't just the signage, it's the combination of the outdoor dining creeping out this way, the signage creeping in this way. And there in the map that I looked at, there was a mobility scooter standing next to it and couldn't get through.
Mm.
And there's also the posts in lots of our small towns from the veranda. So you've got
Yeah.
veranda posts, outdoor dining signs,
Yes.
planters.
So it's the holistic thing.
Yes.
Back to what you're saying, is this a complaint-based enforcement or are we walking around with tape measures?
That's correct. It's complaint based. So the service that would provide would be asking for someone to maybe investigate it. We don't. It's also the service level to walk around the streets.
With the tape measure.
At this point.
Yeah. And I'm having a nod from Solitaire, so Carterton is the same as well, complaints-based. Yeah. Great. Any more discussion, comments on part 2? Moving on to part 3, which is sale of goods in public places. Again, this is one that no changes are proposed by staff. Are there any questions around this? No? Any questions? Tim? Any discussion? Pretty straight to you. Part 4 is the prevention of nuisance or health and safety risk from fire and smoke. This was one that no submissions were received, and also no amendments are proposed. I remember that when we had our meetings with the drafting of the laws, we had sort of a few conversations around it, but as no submissions have been received. Questions, comments? Part 5, keeping of animals, poultry and bees. So we had, on this particular point, we had some very robust submissions from Forest and Bird and SPCA with a lot of information given to us in the hearings and then forwarded to us post the hearings. Staff are recommending no changes on this one. So I will open it up for questions to staff.
Can I start? Just perhaps a little briefing or rationale on your position of no change, particularly given the passionate presentations that we did receive.
So we're talking about cats.
Cats.
Cats. Oh, yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Cats.
The elephant in the room is in this case a cat.
Yes. So I think I don't have it in front of me, but the additional information that came from the submitters, there was a table in the number of councils that have moved to desexing and microchipping. And I think it was now 14 councils out of the 67 councils that there are. So slowly it is being chipped away. Each council is coming to it in their own time. And the consideration for our councils was that hard to enforce in small district councils, even though the registration is free because it would be via the voluntary New Zealand Companion and Animal Register. Other aspects to do with enforcement are not free. There's also the question about whether we actually, between this review and the next review, which is going to be 5 years, whether we should be surveying our communities. You know, we've heard from the organisations, but maybe we should be hearing from our communities first before we take the next step, because there will be a cost involved, and are they prepared for that?
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. That there's other considerations. We've had really good presentations, but actually, how does that impact our community?
Yes.
What is the cost of community?
Yes.
What is the cost of council?
Yes.
Is that a pathway our community actually wants us to take? And I think that pathway between this review and potentially the next review is good. Sensible.
I agree. I like the recommendation of no changes. I think the bylaw already has a stipulation of cat numbers. So I'm happy with your recommendation too. So.
Any comments, Tim?
No, I just agree with what's the conclusion. I think it's fair enough, and I think it will work.
Yeah, I also am in agreement, and I think from being a practical person, the practicalities of how do you know whether they've been microchipped or it's until it's got a feral cat. And I think, yes, 5 years we're doing, there will be another review. And
Yes.
I think consulting the community on that would be our best way forward. I did really appreciate hearing from the two organisations, and they're obviously very passionate about making changes, and
I feel that the level of change is such that you must take your community on the journey. If it was something we just decided in committee and in council, I think that if you put the community immediately on the kind of back foot, whereas if you can start that conversation, progress through the journey, what does this look like? What does this mean? And find the outcome with the community, you're in a much better position.
and in particular, what does this mean in practical terms, and how is this enforced? Okay, no more conversations on part 5. We'll move to part 6. Now, part 6 is one where further amendments have been made, which is page 12 onwards on our agenda. Are there any questions in relation to this and what Angela presented earlier?
No.
So this is part of this is
Fixed traffic, yeah?
yes, part 6 traffic. So this is the first part on page 12 is in relation to the beaches, traffic management at Riversdale and Castle Point beaches in particular.
And sorry, just to be very clear, that due to changes in legislation on the powers of council, the whole piece around speed limits on the beach that is removed.
Yes. Yes, you do. We do have the option, which we talk about. So this is, I've started by talking about the prohibition of vehicles. So that's Schedule 2T, and then we go on to the, on page 16, the proposal in Schedule 5S was to introduce a, 2S, sorry, was to introduce a 10 kilometre an hour speed limit. And so there we say we really have no choice. We need to remove that from the bylaw. That is a requirement. We do have another option, is that we could work to make the speed limit change through NZTA. That would involve another consultation round. It would require a cost-benefit analysis, and it would require the Director of Land Transport to sign off on the speed limit change were there to be one. We noticed through looking at the submissions that even the people who wanted a lower speed limit thought that 10 was too low, and they suggested 20 or 30. And the current speed limits are 25 and 30.
Yeah.
So actually there would be no value. The cost benefit is really, there's a big question mark about it. So officers are recommending that we don't go down that route.
So that really speaks to the fact that the issue in that space is enforcement, not signage and speed limits.
Yes.
And the comment that staff proposed to talk to NZ Police about the increased enforcement at specific times, because the incidents that were used during the hearing as an example occurred over the Christmas period, the 3 accidents that were mentioned. So that would be a proactive way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. Are there any questions on any other part?
Well, just one for me. What sort of signage is there at the beach at the moment? So I might have missed it in the documentation, just around speed limits.
Yeah, so Councillor, if you go to attachment 2, which is maps and photos, figure 4 shows the speed limit sign of 25 kilometres an hour at the main entranceway to the Castle Point Beach. But it also shows that there's a whole number of other access points to Castle Beach, and there's no signage at those. I don't have photos in here at Riversdale Beach, but I went down and had a look, and the signage at Riversdale is less than at Castle Point. There's a sign on the road that says 30 kilometres an hour, and then there's nothing on the beach. So there's an opportunity to improve signage.
Okay, but in the most obvious places, the signs are there.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the Part 6 traffic?
Yeah, I actually have a comment around the stopping, standing and parking and the submission page verse 6, where it brings attention to Cashmere Oaks and the new subdivision there. I actually went down to have a drive, and it's actually a reasonably valid point. I thought that, but the whole thing's in because it has the swales for collecting stormwater and stuff like that. And you know, it's obviously met the design guidelines and all that kind of stuff, but you can just see in the future it might be there might be a point here. So it was just a comment that maybe something we have to look at.
And maybe take back to central government,
Yeah.
because the central government's national policy statement on urban development directs councils to allow subdivisions to be approved without mandatory on-road parking.
Yeah.
It's just a comment. I went for a drive and I thought, yep, actually, got a point there.
We all happy with Part 6 on traffic? Part 7, cemeteries and crematoriums. Again, staff are proposing no changes to the draft we have gone through. Questions, comments? No. Part 8, beauty therapy, tattoo and skin piercing. With that fabulous submission. Really interesting. So, any questions for staff on their proposed? So this is one where they have proposed changes.
So we've in the attachment 1, which is the proposed bylaw, consolidated bylaw. In Part 8, we've gone through and we've done track changes which come out in red, which pick up almost all of the submitted suggestions, which we thought were valid. And the only one that we didn't pick up on was that she was proposing that we move some of the clauses under general conditions of operation relating to information into the record section, but actually she got confused. That was information that the operator was giving to the client, not client's information, which is in the records. Yeah. So that's the only thing we haven't picked up.
And a lot of the other changes that were proposed were around language and consistency and things like that, which I can see.
Definitions
The
and
definitions.
obsolete regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It all looks really good now.
Is any questions, Tim? I think you're frozen. Oh, he's there. Did you have any questions or comments?
No, just that the quality of that submission was outstanding.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. There be no further comments or discussions. Part 9, water supply. Again, there's no recommended amendments. Comments on that. Part 10, wastewater. Again, there was no submissions received, so no changes have been proposed. Comments or questions? And then Part 11, trade waste.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Not a question.
Questions, comments, we can do them.
I actually was a little bit disappointed we only got a couple of submitters for it. I thought it would be quite a far hotter topic, actually. Interesting.
Sorry, Steve, I didn't catch that. Was that Steve or Craig?
Was
What was
Craig.
No, we just I was surprised we only got a couple of submitters, because I would have had 3 people ring me about it, and that's in Marston. So, yeah, I was,
Thanks, Mary.
Answer their questions.
maybe that.
What is they
I
felt?
didn't add to the confusion.
I wonder if it's worth mentioning at this point for anyone perhaps just tuning in, sort of at this point of the process, just to remind that this committee obviously approved this document before it went to consultation. So the fact that there isn't piles of questions about sections now just suggests that, well, it says that we were comfortable with it when it went out. And given that there hasn't been masses of feedback about those parts, we continue to be comfortable with those parts. I think if you were just tuning in now, you might think, oh, well, why aren't they saying anything or asking questions? But sometimes it's nice just to remind people that the process.
There has been, and this has been I can't remember, when was our first meeting? Last year?
12 months.
2023, I think we sort of had our first meeting to go through the bylaws. So thank you, because I was about to bring that up. So thank you
It's
very
March
much.
24.
There we go. So it has been, it's not just a quick 5-minute rubber stamping exercise whatsoever. So is everybody comfortable that all their questions have been answered and they've made their comments that they needed to make in relation to this? So that brings us to the end of our discussion, and we'll move on to the recommendation in the officer's report. And if there are any changes that are required, we can pick these up in the recommendations, and they can be drafted. Additional recommendations can be drafted in, so we don't need to meet again to confirm that. So I will take all of the recommendations to, actually, I'll take, I will take them all together if everybody's comfortable with that.
Just would like to confirm we're doing option 2. Recommendation.
In front of us. So I have my notes. So, well, I'll do them one at a time then, and you can ensure they're the right same ones, aren't they?
So recommendation 6 is option 2, effectively, that we've made those amendments in the attachment.
Yes.
Make all of those amendments after consultation.
Yeah.
Just a confirmation.
Yeah.
Very small detail.
No, so I'll actually take recommendations 1 to 8. So I will read them so you can ensure that you have them in front of you. So, right, grab some water.
Already.
It's too much talking. It is recommended that the Wairarapa Policy Working Group 1 notes it has been provided with the full set of submissions as part of the hearings report. 2, considers the community feedback received and advice from staff. 3, determines that in accordance with section 155 of the Local Government Act 2002, the LGA, a bylaw is the most appropriate way of addressing the perceived problem. 4, determines that in accordance with section 1552A of the LGA, the proposed bylaw is the most appropriate form of bylaw. 5, determines that in accordance with section 1552B of the LGA, the bylaw does not give rise to any implications under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990. 6, recommends the Wairarapa District Councils adopt the proposed Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw in attachment 1 and gives public notice of the making of the bylaw. 7 notes that subject to adoption, the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw will come into force on the 1st of October 2025. 8 notes that the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw 2019 will no longer apply from the time when the Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw 2025 comes into force. Do I have someone that'd like to move that? Thank you, Melissa. And the seconder? Thank you, Craig. Everyone in favour?
Aye.
Against? Great. And recommendation 9 notes the minutes of this meeting will be circulated to the Wairarapa Policy Working Group for review. And 10 agrees for the chair to approve the minutes following the meeting. I'm happy to move those and just confirm that the reason for that is that we are coming up to the local government elections, and this working group is possibly not going to meet again prior to the elections. We don't have any work stream lined up, which is the reason for adding these two in. So do I have somebody that would be happy to second that? Thank you, Steve. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So the meeting has concluded. The Wairarapa Consolidated Bylaw will go to each council for adoption. Firstly, South Wairarapa District Council and Carterton District Council on the 10th of September and Masterton District Council on the 17th of September. And all members are encouraged to discuss the bylaw with their colleagues and answer any questions that they may have. And before I declare the meeting closed, I'd like to ask if we can be upstanding for our karakia. Yes,
Kia wātea tiara, kia tūru ki whakataha, kia tūru ki whakataha.
And I would like to thank you all for your participation in this working group this triennium. I've enjoyed chairing it, and I wish all of you who are restanding all the best. The meeting.
Thank you.
See you, Tim.
Thanks, Robin.